All right, welcome back to Dynasty Kings. This is your host, Mike Valerie. You can find me on Twitter at FF_Dirty Mike. Now let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so we talked about the wide receiver class last week. This week we're talking about the running back class. Now, me and Jake like to do, analytically driven takes, stuff like that. So Jake is our regression guy. He runs the analysis. Now, he uses regression to predict fantasy football success. So he looks at top players at each position. We're going back a few years, gathers a list of top players, and we look at college stats and metrics to understand which ones actually had a correlation to more fantasy points. Um, Now, this has nothing to do with like players regressing. It just points out like actual indicators of success. Now, today's topic is running backs. So let me tell you what the measures that we find that actually correlate to fantasy success. That's going to be draft capital, which has the biggest emphasis, burst score, which we really don't know until the combine, and then we have dominator rating, yards per carry, and target share. Right now, Jake and I both like to target workhorse backs. It's fine if you want a pass catching back. If you're in a full PPR league, those guys can be relevant, but they're not like league winners. They're not going to become top tens in the class. They'll flash. James White had one good year. Nyheim Hines, I think, ended last year like RB20. So those guys are valuable. It's just not who we're targeting in our rookie drafts. And so we want to identify or help you identify how to target your running backs. All right. So these metrics are, yeah, we went through that. Okay. All right. So RB1 for the class for me is going to be Brees Hall. Brees Hall was a semifinalist for the Heisman last year. I think he does it all. He has a great dead leg technique. Kind of reminds me of prime Le'Veon Bell. Almost got the Heisman at the age of 19. He's a top 6 candidate. He makes one-arm grabs. I think he's just great. He kills it. He absolutely kills it. Now, if you're thinking Isaiah Spiller's your RB1, that's fine too. A lot of the stuff's going to be draft capital driven once the data comes out. Yeah, but Brees Hall he's 6'1", 215. Oh man, I forgot about that earlier. One metric that I forgot to list off earlier is size matters. So I was talking about pass catching backs. Size absolutely matters at the NFL level. These GMs, they look for the actual size. So Jake and I both like our running backs to be 5'8" and taller and having 210 pounds. And let me just give you some examples of guys that are under that size from the past. You got Devin Singletary. He's 5'7", 203. No one's excited about owning him in fantasy football. Darrell Henderson, who didn't really get his opportunity until Cam Akers went down, is 5'8", 208. Miles Sanders makes it over that line, but the list can go on about size. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he got the earliest draft capital, and he's 5'7", 208 going out into the draft. That's just a pass catching back in disguise. He is absolutely not a workhorse, and that's kind of why you don't see his production go that way during the season. And that's why we stay away from those backs. Now, I will say this: there are undersized backs that do absolutely perform. An example, Christian McCaffrey. But Christian McCaffrey was a top 6 overall pick. I'm not going to fade a top 6 overall pick, no matter what. You got Austin Eckler's a little small. He's a UDFA. There's no draft capital there. You can't predict that. I mean, he just showed out. James Robinson's another one too. So just for the most part, these are big indicators for us. Draft capital too. So some guys in the later rounds that worked out. Chris Carson was a 6th round pick. Devontae Freeman was a 4th round pick. Devontae Freeman is the only successful 4th round pick, by the way, the last 10 years. So everyone that's stuck on Michael Carter, I would move on. I'd sell him if you could, because he's also undersized too, I believe. Okay, sorry. Now I'm gonna get into Brees Hall. RB1 makes one-handed catches. He has a 6'1", 215. He's just 20 years old. Just turned 20 end of summer. He has a 45% dominator rating as of right now. As in for the current season, for 4 weeks in, he has a 45.4% dominator rating with a 4.9 yards per carry, and he has a 12% target share. Now, those are elite numbers. He is an absolute workhorse. The offense runs through him or around him, and defenses know this, and he's still rocking off 5 yards per carry almost. Now, 4.9 is nothing to be impressed with. He currently has a touchdown run going for, I think it's 18 straight games. No, 16 straight games with a touchdown. The dude's just absolutely great. Great vision. Great speed, great twitch. I don't think there's anything that he doesn't do. And the only reason why I have him above Isaiah Spiller, my RB2, which I'll just roll into right now, is that I think he's a better receiver. Isaiah Spiller is a little bigger at 6'1", 225. And I think if he lost a little weight, he could work on his speed, which is a concern for me, is his ability for speed. But he is definitely a lot more power in his running than Breece Hall. So he can push piles and make a hole. But for the most part, both these guys are locked in. They're going to be the first two running backs off the board, absolutely. Just to list off Isaiah Spiller's stats, his 2021 dominant rating is a 29.2% with 8.2 yards per carry and a 7.7% target share. I mean, it's early in the season. These stats can change, I understand. But for now, these are the numbers that they got. So, and Spiller has really great contact balance, too. He's tough to tackle. He's a big guy that can do cuts, too. It's pretty wild. He's just a great all-around back. Now, I'm just going to breeze over Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller because I think they're everyone's locked top two. So absolutely nothing fancy there. Now, my RB3, I'm with Brandon Lejeune here. If you ever follow him, it's Debbie Deep Dive, and he does great stuff. He does great cut-ups of game film. If you want to get into film watching, he's absolutely a guy to help you out. But RB3 for me is Tyler Algier of BYU. Now, Tyler Algier is great. He's a 0-star recruit. He is a walk-on. He got no offers in college to go to college. Now, he started off as a redshirt freshman, so nothing happened there. He was a linebacker, and then they asked him to go to running back, which is what he was in high school. He's 5'11" at 220. I can't find his age online. But his dominant rating for the season so far is 25.3%, 4.3 yards per carry, and a 4.5% target share. Now, his numbers have gone down from last year, and it's a little disappointing because last year he was just absolutely electric. He was my RB3 going into the offseason, but his last year numbers were 7.5 yards per carry, and he's just amazing. Just absolutely just killing it. He is 220 pounds, 5'11", and just has absolute great twitch and great speed. In the offseason, he claimed that he clocked an unofficial 4.39 40, and a guy that can move that fast, he's a physical profile very similar to Jonathan Taylor. And if he can find a system that he can fit in, I think the sky's the limit for him. If he just continues his production right now for this year, he's going to be absolutely nobody special. I think BYU has him splitting carries, which I'm not a fan of. Because he still looks good out there. There's no reason to split carries. But I think he'll come through the combine. He's going to destroy it. He's going to get a lot of publicity at that point in time. I think he'll get day one or day two draft capital, which is what we target, is day one and day two draft capital. All right, so RB4 here. Is this year's revived career of Zach Charbonneau of UCLA. He's a former 4-star recruit. He's transferred from Michigan. Michigan is just, the Adam Gase of college football, pretty much where talent goes to die. He transferred out. Good for him. Went to UCLA, and he's just absolutely taken off so far. We're only a couple games into the season, but he's 6'1", 220. His dominant rating is a 31.1%, and his yards per carry is a 7.8 yards per carry with an 11% target share. So this guy has shown true workhorse ability. He has the size. He's a power back with speed. Not a lot of lateral agility, but this guy has great. He has great speed and great pad level. He has great contact balance. He does make cuts, but he doesn't really lose much speed on his cuts, and that's what's amazing about him is that he doesn't lose that speed. It's not like he has to do stop and start. It's kind of just a little bit of speed, and he gets back up into gear right away. And that's what I love is Zach Charbonneau. He is absolutely climbing up my board right now. Just for comparison on production, he's kind of like this year's Javonte Williams, where no one was counting on him at the start of the season, and now he's coming out of nowhere and just staking his claim in the class. Now my RB5 of the class is going to be Rachaad White. I'm so not good at putting up these banners, man. I keep forgetting to click on them. Rachaad White is a JUCO transfer, 3-star JUCO transfer to ASU. He led the league last year in yards per carry. It's a shortened COVID season. He didn't get a lot of volume either. He saw 420 yards on 42 carries. So he had 10 yards per carry. He weighed last year at 6. He weighed in at 195, 6'2". Claimed that he put on the off-season weight, and when it came time for weigh-ins, he actually did. He put on 15 pounds of muscle, and I hope that continues because I still think he's a little slim for the NFL, but he's getting there. So at 6'2", he's definitely a taller back. For 2021 stats, he's currently at a 32.4% dominant rating with a 4.8 yards per carry. He wasn't going to keep up that 10 yards per carry, and a 21.4% target share. So he is also the leading receiver for this team as well. So just the fact that he's the workhorse right now, as in like he's the workhorse on both sides, is really encouraging. His production profile is great. He has to work on his physical strength. I think he can get there, but he has a great second gear, some burst. He has pretty good contact balance for his size. I mean, he can't get low for pad level. He's 6'2". You know, how low can you get? You know, but he needs to improve on his pass protection. I think that can be done at the next level, though. It's not atrocious. It's just not. It's not great. And he demonstrates lateral agility with his cuts and speed to beat the linebackers out wide. So he has the ability to run inside and outside, and that's a trait that I actually value a lot here, because a lot of these coaching schemes that you'll see, I'll talk about Georgia players later, is that they just want to run through the middle with power backs, and that's fine if you win your games that way. But as far as like a prospect, I want to know if he has the speed to beat people out wide. I want to know if he has the power to go through the middle. I want to know if he has lateral agility to beat guys in the open field. And it's kind of hard to evaluate guys if they just run through the middle. And Rashard White does this at all levels, and that's what I really like about him, is that he has the ability to produce in between the tackles, outside runs, and as a pass catcher. He can do all three, and that's not something that you have really out here too often. Now, this is going to be my first undersized guy. I think he can get, out of all the undersized guys that are coming out this year, I think he has the best ability to get the highest draft capital, and it's another transfer. It's going to be Kenneth Walker, but I believe he's the Wake Forest transfer. Kenneth Walker was put on my radar by Matt Bruning, actually, of C2C. Go ahead and check those guys out. And he's small, man. He's 206. He's 5'10", 206. 20 years old. Well, he's about to turn 21 here pretty soon this season. And he's just rocking it this year. He's right now at a 33.4% dominant rating at 7.3 yards per carry and a very low target share. So he's taking it by storm. He's looking really good on the protection profile. But the problem is that he's not catching balls. He's only caught 3 the whole year so far. Again, we're only 4 games in, so that can change. No big deal. But that's probably the role he's going to be relegated to in the NFL is catching passes. So, sorry, I got distracted. Austin's out here talking to me. Austin's the owner of Campus to Ken, or one of the co-hosts. Let me get back on track. Kenneth Walker's just too small, man. He's got quick feet. He doesn't lose momentum when he makes defenders miss. He wastes no time getting top acceleration, and his overall speed and losing in the field is just elite. And I like the guy a lot. But again, the size is not going to correlate over to the next level. Okay, this is college football. Like he's beating teams with weak defenders. And when you get to the NFL, these guys are a lot better. You know, the worst team in the NFL could probably be Alabama. That might be a tall statement to make, but in the words of Urban Meyer, super wise, every single game he plays is like playing Alabama, because that's how talented these guys are. So size does matter at the next level. All right, so my RB7, you can call this a homer pick, and that's okay. I have Chris Rodriguez of University of Kentucky here. If you watch his last game, it was pretty sticky. He's fumbled the ball 3 times this year so far, so I'm not too excited about him. He's 5'11", 224. So he's a power back size with speed, and that's what I think will translate over to the next level. He's a 28.6% dominant rating with 6 yards per carry and 6.5% target share. So Benny Snell came through here. I think Benny Snell was a 4th round draft pick 4 years ago, and I think Chris Rodriguez is the next man up. And I think Chris Rodriguez has a better profile than Benny Snell does. He does have the ability to pass, or not pass, to catch, He only had one catch last year. Kentucky's really not known for quarterback play, but on the one catch last year, the ball was thrown behind him. He adjusted his body. He made the catch, and not only on top of that, he made the first man miss and then gained about 12 yards on the pass. So he does have like flashes of ability to be a guy at the next level, and that's what we're looking for. He just needs to clean up those drops. But otherwise, he's being productive. He's crushing his competition. He has a lot of tough competition coming ahead. He's got, I believe, LSU, Texas A&M. Anyway, he has 4 weeks of tough matchups. If he keep up this production and this profile for the next 4 matchups, I think he might move up a couple spots on my draft list. All right, RB8, and I truly don't think this guy's going to come out for the draft, is Zonovan Knight. Zonovan Knight of NC State. He's kind of like the Aaron Jones, if you would, of college football, where he's very efficient on his limited touches. He finally saw his first like real workhorse role to me last week when he got like 23 carries, but only for 80 yards. It wasn't really encouraging. I need to watch more of him as a prospect, but he's 5'11", 210, so he's got the weight. I wish he put on a little more strength though, because he doesn't really show that size on the field. He has a low dominant rating of 17.2%. His yards per carry is 6.5, and his target share is 6.2%. So he I just want to see more out of him, honestly. I believe he's pretty good. He's very efficient with his run. He has great vision. He can spot opportunities to extend runs past the second level. So he's good once he clears the line. And NC State's really not known for strong line play. But he is coming off a shoulder surgery, so it's encouraging to see him produce right now. If he has a slow start, I'm not going to hold against him because again, he's coming off a shoulder surgery. But he's shown promise in the receiving game, and I'm excited to see what he does this year. Now, if they limit his touches again, I don't blame him for waiting another year just to show people more of what he's about. All right, so my RB9, big offseason hype train here, Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams was, I believe, the ACC Freshman of the Year. He's a 5'9", a 195, and 21.1 years old. He's under 200 pounds, right? He's tiny. He has great pass protection. He's definitely absolutely putting his body on the line to block these guys, and that's great. Like, I love the effort. He's had an absolutely slow start to the year. He's got a 27.9% dominant rating with only 3.8 yards per carry with an 8.6% target share. Clearly, he's too small to get a workhorse role at the next level. I think he's absolutely going to get drafted. He's absolutely going to have a role in the committee, like no doubt about it. But again, as far as fantasy goes, he's not somebody I'm looking forward to having my roster. He's clearly not going to be a first-round draft pick in your rookie drafts or in the real draft. But yeah, he works best in the open space. He has the ability to force tacklers to miss rather than break tackles. But when the defenders do catch him behind the line, he doesn't have the traits or the ability to get back to the line. He doesn't have that fight in him. He's just too small. He does his best when he's in open space. Now, RB10, somebody I keep neglecting to put out there on my Twitter, and I'm really impressed with lately, is Tyler Batty. Love the last name, by the way. Absolutely love it. Tyler Batty of Missouri. I don't have his numbers up here, so I'm very sorry. But I know he's 5'8". I think he's about 200 pounds. He looks great this year. He's absolutely great. He's dominated his competition. He has a great pass profile. I think he's the leading receiver. I have to check this actually. I don't want to make the statement. I was going to say he's the leading receiver in Missouri, but I'm not exactly sure. But Tyler Batty is looking good. He's a senior. Hasn't done much his first 3 years. I think he's draftable. And I think he'll get on a roster, but again, as a pass catching back. But he's actually been operating as a workhorse role right now. And he's in the SEC, which is where a lot of talent comes from at the next level. So if he can, as an undersized back, if he can continue to produce as a workhorse, even against like tough competition, like if he plays Alabama or if he plays, Georgia, like those tough defenses, if those guys can flash production against like those type of defenses, I'm all about. Like I'm in. I'm not that in, but I'm not going to brush them to the side because of their size. So those are my top 10s. I'm just going to go through them again. It's going to be Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller. Those are my top two. I believe they're going to be locked in, like, first and second running backs off the board. And then these guys that I believe that can have second day draft capital. Tyler Algier, Zach Charbonneau, Rashad White, Kenneth Walker, undersized, not a fan. All right, Chris Rodriguez, and Zonovan Knight. And just to put this in a little more context here, last year we had 5 running backs go in the first 2 days of the draft, and had a brain fart. This year before that, it was 9. The year before that was 7. So you're looking at like an average of 7 running backs a year getting that day 1 or 2 draft capital, which is what you want to target. Because again, that means that teams are actually scheming them to be a part of their team. They're not just, oh, they fell in the rankings and we'll just grab them up and we'll figure it out later. These are the actual guys that actually have plans for their rosters. So only 7 running backs are getting this draft capital. Again, just averages. It's just ballparking it. And this class is, to me, deeper than last year's class. Last year's class was Najee Harris. He's a lock stud. I was a big fan of Javonte Williams. He was my RB1 for the class last year. And then you had Travis Etienne. If you're into that guy, I wasn't. I didn't really see it. I thought he had poor vision. We'll never know. He has an injury now, so, we'll never know. And then you had Trey Sermon, who had no production his whole sophomore year, had to transfer schools because he lost his job to Kenny Brooks, who we'll talk about in a second. Then he goes to Ohio and he does nothing all year, and then he looks really good against the top 2 defenses in the league, and then he gets hurt. So he had 2 good games out of like 2 years. So it wasn't really encouraging for me to see that. I can't remember who the last guy was last year that got drafted early on. Maybe it was just 4. Okay, this is move on. So I'm going to now just talk briefly about some names that missed my list. They're still on my radar, absolutely. I'm not, pushing them off to the side too much. They're just kind of lingering around. The first guy I'm going to talk about is C.J. Verdell of Oregon. Now, he's a senior. He's 5'8", 211, so he's kind of hitting that size. He's around the line, though. He's 22.1 years old, so he's on the older side for prospects. He has a 27.7% dominator rating. He has a 5.6 yards per carry and an 8% target share. So he is a workhorse right now for Oregon. I believe he has great straight line speed and explosiveness. But his best year producing has been with current Chargers quarterback. It's going to come to me in a second. Justin Herbert. Thank you for anybody that was saying that inside their head. Justin Herbert was his best year with that line, with Penei Sewell as his offensive lineman too. Since then, his position profile hasn't been the same. I haven't really seen any improvement. I think his vision has gotten better. His blocking has gotten better, especially that. But besides that, I don't think he's really improved too much, and I don't think he has like the elite athleticism to take it to the next level. If he puts on more weight, he has a small frame, so I don't think that weight will slow him down. Which I think is what he has a speed. If you have speed, like that's your thing, you have to find a way to put on that weight without losing speed. So I believe that his upside is capped. Now, other guys that are off my list is another off-season hype train is Eric Gray. Eric Gray transferred from Tennessee, like everybody else and their mom transferred from Tennessee to Oklahoma. And I called out over the offseason that he's going to split carries with Kenny Brooks, who I'll also talk about here in a second. And that's exactly what happened. It's a 40-60 split. Kenny Brooks is getting the majority of the work role because, he was on Oklahoma before, so he's familiar with the scheme. And Eric Gray has absolutely no ability to pass protection. He's terrible. He's absolutely awful at pass pro. And that elusiveness, that shiftiness that almost Kyron Williams has, where he's just great at that he's just great in the open field, and he's just not showcasing that at all this year. He is showcasing like zero ability to be elite, and so I don't think he's going to come out this year because his numbers are so bad, and he can't transfer again because Kenny Brooks is in front of him. They're both juniors, so hopefully Kenny Brooks goes to the draft so that Eric Gray can get the majority role and hopefully showcase. Otherwise, I believe Eric Gray is just going to kind of fade into the distance there. Let me just go over Eric Gray's numbers, though. Eric Gray is, I think, 5'10", and I believe he's 205 pounds. 21 years old. He's probably close to 22 now. He had 5.1 yards per carry last year. He has the height. He just needs to add like 5 more pounds of strength, which I think he can do. Unlike some people like Kyron Williams and C.J. Verdell, I don't think they can add on that strength without losing other traits. But I believe Eric Gray can put on that weight without losing speed or anything like that. Another name that fell off here is South Carolina's. Well, no, let me just stick with Oklahoma here. It's Kenny Brooks. Kenny Brooks to me is an old school bulldozer type. He's gonna make his own hole. He's gonna find the hole. Or he's gonna make it. That's the type of guy he is. Now he does have some sort of pass catching profile, but when you watch the film on this pass catching, they're just dump offs. Just thrown in front of him, he just basket catches it. No big deal. It's not like he has to adjust for these balls or he's running routes out there. But Kenny Brooks is an old school bulldozer. And again, he's now splitting carries. He took the year off, so he's probably knocking the rust off from COVID. And now he looks like nothing special. I mean, the whole Oklahoma offense looks like nothing special. Everyone's waiting for Oklahoma to actually produce the way they're ranked. But like I think at this moment in time, I think nobody in Oklahoma has business being ranked in the top 10, and none of their pass catching weapons are really that exciting. And none of their offensive weapons are exciting at all. So Kenny Brooks, he's also a junior. If he sticks around a year, I think that's going to kill Eric Gray's value altogether. If he transfers out, I mean, good luck to him. I don't know where he'd go, but and I also don't know why he would transfer out. But yeah, so that's it for Eric Gray. Now the other one here that I was high on preseason, he was my RB5 preseason, so he's really fallen for the ranks for me. Is Kevin Harris. Kevin Harris had it coming out once the 5-star freshman Marshawn Lloyd tore an ACL, which gave Kevin Harris the workhorse role. I do believe teams like Kentucky and South Carolina are trying to have a mirror. I'm calling it a mirror of Georgia's pretty much role, where they just have constant running backs rotating through. They're a run-first team with a great defense, and I believe that's the way that Kentucky and South Carolina are trying to make their team. Anyway, moving forward, Kevin Harris is a 3-star recruit. He is 5'10", 225. He had a 45.8% dominator last year with a 6.2 yards per carry and 9.5% target share. So he absolutely, the offense went through him. He absolutely dominated. He looked great out there. He's a big boy that can move. Showed some elusiveness in the open field. He just wasn't consistent. So he would destroy teams with weak defenses, but like on teams like Alabama, he would just totally disappear and just be a complete non-factor and couldn't get anything going. Which again, it's a top defense against the South Carolina O-line. But the point is that he showcased and flashed abilities to be a workhorse, and he was somebody to watch. Now this year, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he looks terrible. He looks absolutely terrible. He's not a part of the game plan. They brought in a JUCO transfer who looks good, and Marshawn Lloyd is back too, and Marshawn Lloyd is working back into the offense. So we'll see what Kevin Harris does this year. I assume he'll probably come out, though. He'll come out or he'll transfer schools. One of those two. Some deeper guys. Zamir White, for everyone of you Georgia fans out there that think that you guys are just, the best thing since French toast, sliced bread. French toast is better than sliced bread, though. Zamir White had torn 2 ACLs. He's absolutely nothing special to me. Oh my gosh, my dog just ripped out my headset. Zamir White tore 2 ACLs, and that's the reason why I'm afraid of him. His freshman year, nothing special. Sophomore year, nothing special. Junior year is when he finally starts producing a bit. He's 5'11", 215, and Georgia's run scheme is always go through the middle, and so he just bounces off tacklers. He has great contact balance. He showcases some power, but I can't gauge his speed, his ability in the open field, because I don't ever see it. I never see it. It's not there. It just doesn't exist. So Zamir White's just a guy to me. His last year numbers are 24.5% dom. He has a 5.4 yards per carry and 2.9% target share. That's last year, by the way. So, and he's nowhere to be seen this year. I think he has to come out. He's a senior this year. I'm sure he'll get picked up because there's the Georgia name attached to him. I'm not expecting anything big out of him. Raymond Davis. This name got added to my list again because of my friend Matt Pruning on C2C kind of brought it to my attention. Went to Temple, transferred to Vanderbilt. So he went to a better division, but a really bad team. And he looked like a human joystick his freshman year. He looked great. I believe he got a lot of awards his freshman year. I have it right here. He was 2019 first team freshman All American according to PFF. That was 2019. Now his sophomore year, he absolutely fell off, and I couldn't even tell you why he fell off. He just did. It was a COVID season, and then he transferred to Vanderbilt, and he's just not looking good. He's looking for a revival. He's in a tougher competition area, so I think it's a good move to do that. To go to SEC. I just think it was the wrong team, and he's just not looking good. He's 5'9", 210, so has the size. He is very shifty in the open field, but Vanderbilt's just gonna let him get pummeled. I mean, there's no way anybody on Vanderbilt can look good. There just isn't. So I mean, his best bet is to look good at the Senior Bowl or look good at the Combine or both. But if he doesn't look good at those two places, I'm not looking in this direction at all. I'm going through two more running backs here. We have Mohamed Ibrahim. I got a lot of hate online for putting him down as my preseason RB13. He's a super productive college quarterback. He looks great. He torched up Ohio State's defense. So far, looks like everybody is this year. But he's a 3-star recruit. He was a 2018 All Big Ten team, 10 honorable mention. He's just a really productive volume field guy. He averages, I think, 25 touches per game. 5'10", 210. He's 23 years old, and he had almost a 50% dominant rating last year, and he was probably going to repeat that this year. He has a lot of miles on him too. So the thing is that I just think he lacks athleticism. Now, to me, when I look at film and I evaluate running backs, the ability to create on their own is a really big deal to me. That means that if you watch a highlight, right, and you watch like an out wide maneuver where like linebackers get free of the line, and not linebackers, excuse me, linemen get free of the line, they block a linebacker, and you have like another lineman like somehow downfield blocking like corners or safeties. That's not a running back highlight. That's a lineman highlight. I think people have to understand that. And I saw a lot of that from Mohamed Ibrahim. Like he would run off a 20-yard run, which is great, but it's his lineman getting to the second level making those blocks, and all he would have to do is make one man miss, maybe two men miss, and that's it. And he would fail at that. He would fail at making a man miss because he'd be following his blockers, which is fine, but he has to recognize when to not follow his blockers, and you know, because a lineman's not as fast as a running back, like he shouldn't be at least, and he has to recognize when to do that. And I just don't think he had the decision making for it. Look, this is all for naught anyway, because he tore an ACL. He's a senior. He's going to be forced to come out for the draft. He's coming off an injury. I don't think teams are going to touch him with high draft capital because of the injury, because they don't want to roll the dice. They don't want to roll the dice on him not being able to bounce back from injury. So Mohamed Ibrahim, I'm saying there's like a 0% chance he gets day 1 or day 2 draft capital. So he's actually just off my board. But he was looking like a nice hot start to the season. I was looking forward to reevaluating him during the year, and at the end of the year, probably going to move up my draft board. But now we will never get to see that. We'll never see his senior year and see his improvement. Now, the last running back, doing this for Austin, probably have to move him up my draft board. I haven't watched a single game of his this year, but he was my preseason RB15, is Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford is an Alabama transfer to University of Cincinnati. He is all speed. He's 5'11", 215. He's 22 years old. It wasn't too involved last year. It was a 14.1% dominator rate with a 6.6 yards per carry and a 3.7% target share. And this year, just to give it little comparison stakes, he has a 29.1% dominator so far for the year. Yards per carry is down to 6, and his target share is down to 3.4, so that's not really too encouraging. But Jerome Ford has really great straight line speed, and he's looking good right now in college, at least in the box scores. And I haven't gotten to watch his film tape or anything like that. Again, Alabama transfer, so he had that nice pedigree coming out of high school, but transferred to University of Cincinnati. So that's not too encouraging. But we'll see how he looks at the end of the year, and we'll reevaluate. Again, the NFL, though, is so enamored by speed. a great fit for him, honestly, would be a late round pick to San Francisco. San Francisco, who's always hurt for one. Two, it looks like their running back core is always going towards speed. Like Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, Elijah Mitchell. All those guys are speedsters. Trey Sermon, who's not doing well right now, not a speedster. Yeah, so those are the running backs on my watch list. My top, though, I think that can be workhorses again. Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, Tyler Algier, Zach Charbonneau, and Rashad White. And honestly, Breece Hall is probably going to be the 101 in your rookie draft for single quarterback leagues. Maybe Isaiah Spiller. And again, just to go over the metrics that matter to us is draft capital, burst score, dominator rating, yards per carry, target share, and size. Size does matter at the NFL. Okay. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me. Thanks for tuning in to Dynasty Kings. Thanks for tuning into my 2022 watch list. Next week, I'll probably talk about tight ends. Not looking forward to it. Not a tight end guy. But I'm going to throw some names out there for you guys to keep an eye out for. And some metrics, too, of course. All right, thanks for checking in. I'll see you guys later.